Okay, so hello Gordon and anybody else who's found this video. Today we're going to talk about some shaping techniques for ABS plastic. This is a 3D printed ABS plastic part that I'm going to use to demonstrate. I sent off a similar device, and the recipient said that the plastic needs to be shaped in some ways, so we're going to do that today. First up is safety. You should work with plenty of ventilation if you're going to do really any of these techniques. I can get away with it in my office because I have a killer ventilation system. If you need to go outdoors, that's fine, or work in just a very large space that allows air to flow through. Alright, so let's get started. First we're going to do some abrasion to remove material. One thing that Gordon mentioned is that when he wears it, this bit of plastic here runs into his hand. So there are quite a few different tools you can use for that. This is probably going to be the quickest. This is a rasp, and you can get it at pretty much any hardware store, and there are a lot of department stores that have hardware sections too, where you can get something like this. This one's nice because it's got the very aggressive teeth here, and then also there's a round side with aggressive teeth, and then it's got a round side also and a flat side of a less aggressive file, just like a file grid. So we're going to start super aggressive, and notice the direction of the teeth. When I pull, it's going to abrade it much more slowly than when I push. If I push it, actually it cuts pretty quickly. So I'm going to do that. Just hold it on a table here, and so now I've taken off quite a bit of material. Let me take the coarse flat side now, and then I'm going to round off this. This has become a sharp edge now, so let me at the very least round that off. And if you're printing with ABS, I recommend a higher infill than you would typically do for PLA. So now I'm going to go to the less aggressive side. I got the less aggressive round now, and I'm going to use that to smooth off these edges a little. And yes, when you're grinding like this, you should have ventilation, because you're kicking ABS dust into the air, and you shouldn't breathe ABS dust. So I want to smooth these out, and if you remember, this had a bit of a hook in it before, right? And this file's not really going to work, so you can try to find a round file, but actually if you have a big bolt lying around, you can use that. This is threaded. It's a fairly coarse thread, but you know, you can use just about any thread as long as it's big enough you can hold it in your hand, and then just you can grind that out. So you can see that's starting to happen, and I can keep going as far as I want, although, you know, make sure not to make this too thin, because you still want this part of the hinge to be substantial. But I could go, I could take a whole lot more off of here if the wearer wanted to do that. You just want to smooth it like this, and then still having a little bit to sort of hang on to might be a good thing, or they might just want to do away with it. So Gordon, that's up to you and anybody else who's doing this. Another good reason to use ventilation is if you're doing this second part. I've got acetone here, which you should not be breathing, and especially I would say acetone with ABS. So this is ABS dissolved in acetone. So the way that you do this is you take some pieces of plastic. These are 3D printed plastic, you know, some little brim material, some little misprint things. You can also, you know, any 3D printed parts you don't want to use, although I think I do want to use that. It's a nice little buckle. And the filament itself. Cut off a piece of ABS filament. Just break it off here. So yeah, you can use that, and you just put the pieces of ABS into a medicine bottle. All right, put them in here. Acetone you can get at the pharmacy in the nail polish remover area. Just make sure you look at the label and make sure that it's that it is acetone. You can also get acetone at a hardware store, but that's usually in larger containers. These medicine bottles, the nice thing about these is they're number 5 plastic. If you look at the bottle, at the bottom of the bottle, there's a triangle with a 5 in it, polypropylene, which acetone will not dissolve. So basically, you just put the acetone in the ABS parts and leave it in there for a few minutes, and stir it with, you know, just a piece of wood, like a cheap wooden chopstick or something like that, and you'll get something you can use like a glue and a filler to build up ABS parts. Like a Q-tip. I've got this little spongy thing. You could use. You could also use a little paintbrush and just acetone. Here, let me turn on the ventilation. I'm going to take the acetone and brush it on here. And just so it coats the surface, you don't have to brush it very much. Just set it on there. The one that I sent to Gordon actually has a bit of a lip, and he wants it to be more of a lip. So I'm just going to take a piece that I printed here. This isn't a perfect fit, but it doesn't really need to be a perfect fit. So we're just going to stick it in here and make the lip bigger. These are little syringes. This one came from an inkjet refill kit. It's got a little rubber plunger, and that's fine. You can use that. This one is a medicine dispenser. You can get this at any pharmacy. They have them for sale. Actually, one of the pharmacists gave me some of these when I told her what I was doing with them. This is 100% polypropylene, the tube and the plunger both. I'm going to take this ABS cement. I've just stirred it. Okay, so this is ABS mixed with acetone, and it's all runny. And I'm going to just suck some up into the tube here. Alright, so now I've got a tube with almost 3 milliliters of ABS cement. Put a little bit of acetone on the surface that I'll be gluing. That'll kind of clean the surface, and it'll start to dissolve it a little bit too. Okay, and then it's going to go in here, so I'm going to paint a little acetone there too. Put a little bit of this ABS cement on there. Okay, and then I'm just going to stick it on. Even with a pretty bad filler, I mean a bad piece you're adding, you can make a very strong connection just with little dabs of the ABS cement. So this is all kind of soft. Like I said, 1 or 2 days, depending on how deep. This job I would set for 2 days before wearing it or using it or actually doing anything with it. And I'd say the first thing that you would want to do would be to take a file and to make these connections nice and smooth. But not now. You have to wait. This has been sitting for a couple days now since I did the weld, and it feels pretty solid after a couple hours. But if you can leave it a couple days, it gets nice and hard. So I got 2 problems here now. This is jutting out, but I knew that when I glued it together that I would need to do some additional work on it. And also this white coating, it's a hard coating, it must be like some kind of crystallized plastic has formed on the surface. So I'm going to just use abrasives to get that off. So here's my rasp again. Let's see. Now I want to go start with the aggressive. I'm going to use a less aggressive to take off the sharp edges. And I'm pulling to get just to do the kind of fine work. Alright, so I think that for the finishing and to get a lot of these crystals off, I got this is a little strip of 220 grit sandpaper. I think you want to start, by taking it off kind of fast at first until you can get the white mostly off. I guess if you print in white, this would never be a problem. Oh, okay, so here's a little connection here where there's a little nub, and I'll take it down a little bit. And the sandpaper. And some even dripped out here. Actually, I'm going to use the finer stuff for that one. Okay, so that's 220. The next size up that I have is, I got 400 here. So we'll go 400 now, and then that makes everything pretty darn smooth and shiny. And what might work just as well, might even better, is one of these green Scotch like Brillo pad things, because that also gets into the crevices kind of. So here we go. This thing's pretty smooth now, mostly thanks to this, just the Brillo pad. Seems to leave it with a nice finish. It's not exactly as shiny as the vapor smoothed part of the plastic, but it does blend in nicely, and it does smooth off quite smooth. Yeah. So here's the leather piece I was telling you about. That goes over here. And actually your device already has 2 of these holes, so you're going to need to use this actually to drill, just put the leather on and then just go in with a drill. Don't go too deep though. You're going to want a 3/30 seconds drill bit. You're going to want to wrap tape around it so that you don't over drill it, right? Because you only want to drill in, what is it, a 1/2 inch? Yeah, a 1/2 inch. That's the length of the screw. And so with the leather, it doesn't even have to be a 1/2 inch. It could be 3/8 of an inch, and that'd be fine. And then just, yeah, then just put the screw in that I'm sending you. So this is the one. This is one of the ones that you already have. I'm also sending you a smaller one, and this is the one you should use. The smaller one. That'll go in a 3/30 seconds drill bit hole in the plastic. Okay. So that about does it. Yeah. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.